Actors, when doing a movie, there is one piece of advice that you must follow.
Never go full retard.
The Fanatic stars John Travolta, Devon Sawa, and is directed by Fred Durst. What's up, guys? This is a weekend that there were no real major releases that I wanted to see that came out, so I reviewed some VOD movies. Or actually, I'm reviewing one VOD movie right now, but previously I did Haunt. Really enjoyed that movie. So I thought I'd give The Fanatic a try. Now, let me just go right into this and say I did not expect this movie to be good. I am aware of Chris Stuckman's review of this movie. It did pique my interest. I didn't watch the review because my policy is I don't watch other people's reviews before I review them, just because I don't want to say the same stuff that they say, you know? But this was a hilariosity review, and so that piqued my interest because I do love reviewing bad movies. I did The Crow Wicked Prayer. It's like I always have a good time when I review bad movies. Hellboy. This year's Hellboy was a complete travesty. A lot of times you can laugh and have fun at these types of films. So just looking at the trailer for this movie pretty much told me everything I needed to know about it. And I was looking forward to going into it because John Travolta is a really good actor. But the guy definitely has done a lot of really bad, shitty movies. This movie in particular is not just a case of John Travolta going off the rails. I mean, this is just, I don't want to say a travesty, but it's like a bad mistake was made in every aspect of filmmaking along the way. And you know what? I'll right out the gate, I'll go ahead and say Fred Durst, who is in Limp Bizkit, directed this movie. I am not going to knock anybody that puts themselves out there and tries to make a film, because it is no easy task whatsoever. I completely get that, and I give anybody props that would want to take on that endeavor. It's not easy. But I got to be honest about this movie. I mean, it's just a really bad movie, and if anything, it's probably a lesson learned. Now, first, quick plot synopsis. John Travolta plays his character Moose. You know, there's different levels of entertainment fans. You know, there's people like me. I love movies. I love Sylvester Stallone. I'd probably lose my shit if I was in the presence of Sylvester Stallone. The guy is just my idol. And then there are guys like Moose. I do believe that there are real people like Moose in this world. You know, they do show just a little bit of Moose's backstory. There's really just like one flashback scene. And it's pretty cliche, you know, the kid that was sat in front of the TV. I guess like kind of like the cable guy. But I think Jim Carrey did a better job. But Moose is obsessed with this actor. He was a horror actor named Hunter Dunbar, played by Devon Sawa. And he takes it way too far. He ends up going on his private property. And again, these are things that do happen in real life. It can be some scary stuff. Let me repeat that. It can be some scary stuff. This movie doesn't portray that at all. And we're going to get into the reasons why. First off, the premise alone, the obsession premise, especially in terms of like fans, take movies like Misery. Misery is done to perfection, you know? It has this cadence to it. It starts off kind of innocent because she doesn't necessarily kidnap the guy. She just saves him from a car accident. And then as time goes by, he realizes that this is a fan of my work, and this fan takes it way too far, and Rob Reiner worked miracles with that script and made it one of the best obsession movies ever made. Now, this movie has very, very, very little in the way of prose. It is just bad all the way. And it does fall into that category of so bad it's good. You can have a good time with this movie, especially if you watch it with a few people. Then you can kind of point at it and laugh, and there are some scenes that are so over the top. You're just like, I can't believe that that's the take that they went with. But then, as you watch the whole movie, they went with that portrayal for almost 2 hours. And it's insanity. First off, let's start with John Travolta's performance. I don't think Travolta really did the research for this part. I think he just took the part at face value, went to the knee-jerk reaction. What would this type of character look like on screen? I'd say there's moments in the movie where he's almost there, you know, but he takes it way too far. Like, this is where the character should be, you know, creepy but dangerous, never turning into like a caricature or a parody. He takes it way up here, and it's a shame because Travolta, like I said, is a good actor. But if I could share like an example, I was watching someone's watching me John Travolta's, one of his first films. It was his first like TV movie. And Adrienne Barbeau was in that movie, and she said the best piece of acting advice she ever got was from John Carpenter. There was one scene that she was doing in the movie, and after she finished the scene, John Carpenter, after he yelled cut, he looked at her and he said, yeah, that's really good, but can you do less? She said those two words really lit a fire under her, and all of a sudden just like her world of acting just completely opened up. She completely understood what he was talking about. She should not have taken it so far. And I think that's what Fred Durst should have did with John Travolta in this part. Do less. Take it back a bit. Yes, there are people that take it that far, but for cinematic's sake, you have to find that balance in your story, in your script, you know, all the way down to the score, everything, to convey the tone that you're actually looking for. I can tell that Fred Durst did not really want this to be a comedy, but Travolta's performance is so over the top that it turns the movie into a comedy. Now, just to settle a little bit of controversy, I literally just got this text from one of my Twitter followers, Zarky. He said, hey, just so you know, a lot of reviewers are getting flack because of a certain scene in the movie where Devon Sawa's character, Hunter, is listening to Limp Bizkit. And, you know, at face value, when you watch the movie, you see that as self-serving. Like, why is Fred Durst plugging his own band in the movie? But Devon Sawa himself actually put a tweet on Twitter and said that that was not Fred Durst's decision. Devon Sawa was a fan of the band in the 90s, and he actually put the song on. Something around that, but the big thing you need to take away from this is that that was not Fred Durst's decision, so I have to give him credit for that. Now, speaking of Devon Sawa, the character Hunter Dunbar, I think, is played the best in the whole movie. I think Devon does a good job with the character. He doesn't take it too far, and you buy it, because I do believe that actors can be like that, and he plays both sides of it to where you can kind of see where he's coming from when you deal with fans like this on a day-to-day basis. I literally just was watching like an interview with Bill Hader, and he was talking about fans and how every time he goes out, he doesn't do autographs anymore, because once he does one, then all of a sudden the floodgates open and everybody's trying to get an autograph. He said, I'd prefer to just talk to you, but most people don't want that. They just want the autograph. You can see a little bit of that in this movie with the character Hunter. And one more thing I will say about Travolta is every actor, I think, needs a good director. And I hate to poke at Fred Durst on this, but I can give you an example of Snatch, Brad Pitt and Snatch. When Brad Pitt first tried out for Snatch, he didn't try out for the pica. He actually tried out for, I believe, Turkish. And he could not pull off the accent that well. Guy Ritchie said, I don't think you should go for that part. I think you should play the pica. And he nailed the pica. He became like the best part of that movie. That's where great directing comes into play. A director knows the actor's strengths, the actor's weaknesses, and is able to tell the actor, hey, this is not going to work. And maybe Fred Durst was a little bit intimidated by Travolta. I don't know, but the results are there on the screen. And at the end of the day, we don't know the story behind the scenes, but I can tell you that Travolta took this way too far. Also, if you look at Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, it's a completely different genre. But still, the guy knows restraint, and he was a teenager at the time when he played this part. You know, this is an actor that puts a lot of effort into his roles. And again, I just don't think Travolta put the work into this role. And really, the movie is way too ambitious for its own good. I think Fred Durst had all these ideas that he wanted to convey, and I think he just threw everything at the dartboard. And sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it really doesn't work. Also, you have this like bad narration throughout. There's a few scenes where there's some narration, and I believe narration should only be used very sparingly. You should always show, don't tell. And I think Scorsese is one of the few directors that can get away with great narration, but the narration kind of gets in the way. Reminds me of like Blade Runner. You know, there's so many different cuts of Blade Runner, and the best cut doesn't have any narration because it wasn't needed. Now, without going into any spoilers, the ending of this movie is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, just because of how it plays out. Obviously, there is this confrontation between Moose and between Hunter, and it could have went 10 different ways, and the way it ended up was bullshit. Like, no, there's no way that would ended up playing out like that. But putting aside how the situation played out, just the way the whole scene is directed is really bad, actually, because this was a scene that was very similar to another movie this year, Lords of Chaos. And the last scene in that movie, without spoiling anything, is the most tension-filled scene of the year. And it involves two characters, and one character is fighting for their life. And the way that scene is played out, I really went over that in that review, but let me just tell you, this is how to direct a scene. This is how to deal with tension. And it's just done beautifully in that movie. This one, there was no tension whatsoever. And the events that unfolded should have been even more intense because it does get graphic. But because Travolta's performance is so over the top and you can't buy him whatsoever, you're not invested at all and you don't really care what's going on. So in the end, guys, The Fanatic is such a mess of a movie. It really is. I commend Fred Durst for, trying out directing a film. No easy task. There was some nice cinematography in the movie, but overall, man, it's just horrible. And I have to give this movie a Looped in Hell. I think this is my second Looped in Hell, behind Hellboy. Hellboy is a very different movie, but equally as bad. I can't tell you which one. I think Hellboy is even worse than this because at least I could have some fun laughing at this movie, whereas Hellboy was just a pain to get through. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on The Fanatic. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.